Welcome back to the Ignore the Template podcast, the only FPL podcast on the entire internet, hosted by me. My name is Devin, and what a rotten Gameweek 28. It was bad. It was not good. Should we just rip the Band-Aid off? Okay, let's just roll straight into it because we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of information, but let's recap 28. Let's look ahead to Gameweek 29, which is a midweek Premier League fixture, FPL. So I'm just saying words at this point, but yeah, the Premier League is back midweek. So we basically just have to run with what we have. There are flags flying around, but we don't have, at the time of recording, don't have information on press conferences. So I'm going to try to do the best with what I have. I updated the stat spreadsheet on Airtable, so that information is available to you all. But as we have seen this week and the past, like basically all season, the stats just really are not supporting what the outcomes are showing. So as much of a stat guy as I am, I have to admit the stats are just really not, what am I trying to say? Doing all the research and looking at all the statistics and trying to project what might come out in future weeks based on information we have from this season just has not been very productive. So we'll run through as much as we can, and yeah, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's look at how bad my team was, because it was a 15-point red arrow, possibly one of my worst weeks this season. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, we are back on livefpl.net looking at my terrible rank, because it's not a bad rank. It's a bad week. So I got a 15-point red arrow, which meant that my rank went from, I think, like 75k. What was it? Yeah, my rank went from 75k to 123k. Not great. So how did we get there? Basically, my differentials did nothing. I captained Thiago, which if you didn't watch anything this week, which honestly, if I'm being honest, I stepped away from the Premier League this weekend because I was spending some time with my family, and it was probably the best weekend to do that, at least from an FPL standpoint, because it was terrible for me. So I captained Thiago. A lot of people captained Haaland, and a lot of people's vice captain was Bruno Fernandes. So that ended up being very good for a lot of people because Haaland didn't play a single minute, which means they captained basically one of the best players of the game week. A lot of people had Ekitike, who went off with a 15-pointer. A lot of people had Wilson, who had a 12-pointer. A lot of people had Virgil van Dijk. A lot of people had Semenyo. So it was just an all-around rotten week for players that I didn't have, which I think the stats suggest that at least Semenyo, Van Dijk, and Ekitike are at least relatively good options. Wilson is not a player for the stats. We've seen this. He's massively overperforming. His output is like basically double the chances he's creating. So yeah, João Pedro didn't return, Raya didn't return, Rodgers didn't return, and Haaland blank. Those were the other threats to my rank, but it really didn't matter because the big ones, Semenyo, Van Dijk, and Wilson. There goes my cord, but I'm just gonna roll with it. That's how this week has gone. But yeah, basically a lot of the players that were like minus 61% and minus 50% just really destroyed my rank this week. And then on the differential side, nothing really happened. Thiago returned, but I captained him. But captaining him basically meant nothing because a lot of people had captain on Haaland and vice captained Thiago. Also, a lot of people captained Ekitike. So yeah, I basically had the worst captain I could have possibly picked going for a differential. But I think, like I said last episode, every decision I was going to make was going to be the wrong one, and that ultimately was true. Ismail Assar doing nothing again. Yep, terrible. Tarkowski, he was on my bench, but obviously because Haaland didn't play, he came off the bench with a 3-pointer. That did nothing for me as well. Krupi Jr., nothing. Dubravka, I went for him over Raya. It's a 3-point differential. It doesn't really matter either way. Senesi did nothing, although he did get the defensive contribution, so I guess that's a positive. And elsewhere, players that basically everyone else has that wouldn't have impacted my rank at all. Gabriel, Gehi, Bruno Fernandes, like I said, Rice. That was basically it. Mbumo blanked as well, but yeah, it was just a rotten week. On the bench, Mukiele hurt, Holland hurt, Enzo 1-pointer because he's been terrible since Palmer's been back, and that's how my week went. Pretty rotten. I honestly don't even know what I can do to improve my situation. So it's one of those seasons. Unfortunately, that's what it is. And here's what my team is looking like right now going into game week 29. I don't even know what to do. I've had just so many injuries. It's just really hard to bounce back from. And that has contributed a lot to my rank just tumbling. I looked since game week 25, which was 3 weeks ago, less than 3 game weeks ago. I've had 4 injuries. And now this week, I've got Holland hurt, Rice hurt, Mukiele is still hurt. I've got 1 free transfer, 1.9 in the bank. I mean, I either take a hit, if Holland's not going to be fit for this game, I can remove him, bring in like a Salah or someone like that. But there's not a whole lot I can do without taking a hit. So hit might be on the table, unfortunately, which stinks because I was hoping just to get through game week 31. But with how things have gone, it's looking untenable. I mean, what am I supposed to do when I get more than 1 injury per week and I only get 1 free transfer per week? If you're in a similar situation, you're probably feeling the same pain. But a lot of people are in this not as bad of a situation, but a lot of people have Rice, a lot of people have Holland. So that stuff's not outrageous, but Lacroix getting hurt, Saka getting hurt when they were both differentials, that sucks. Grealish was a differential for me. He got hurt. Yeah, this has been a really bad season for me in terms of injuries. So not as much of a pity party, but sorry, it's kind of my outlet. This is the podcast that I have to complain. So let's run through the team on paper, what we have. And again, the information is very limited. Like, I don't know if Holland's going to be out for sure. If he is, I'm probably going to have to take a hit. But if he's fit, if everyone's fit, apart from the players that we know are out, like we know Mukiele's out, this is probably what the team would look like. So David Raya back in goal for his 3-pointer, Gabriel, Senesi, Mark Gehi, Tarkovsky playing Burnley at home. I think that will be a good differential, but of course they're almost certainly going to blank because he's in my team, or maybe he'll get injured. That would track. Bruno Fernandes against Newcastle away, Ismail Assar against Tottenham away, Rice, Erling Haaland if he's fit, Thiago, and Krupi Jr. And then on the bench, I would have Mukiele, who's hurt, Mbumo and Enzo, as well as Dubravka playing Everton away. So honestly, it's another one of those weeks where I feel like any move that I make is necessarily going to be the wrong one, and there's not like an obvious decision. There's not an obvious move I can make. Players that I would like to have that I don't have. The big one is probably Van Dijk. When I had the decision to either go for Van Dijk or Senesi, I made the wrong decision. That it was very clear by the underlying data and by the observed data. It was basically a wash in terms of output. So I went for the cheaper player, and the bigger differential as well, hoping that he would, at least perform to his average performance across the season. He hasn't done that. It's a small sample size since I brought him in, three game weeks since Lacroix got hurt. So in those 3 game weeks, Van Dijk has massively outperformed what he's done on average. So that just happens sometimes. That's why there's so much variance in this game. You can have absolutely ridiculous double-digit hauls, and then you can blank for several weeks in a row. So on that note, I would like to have Van Dijk, but I have Senesi. I think I just have to roll with that. I would like to have somebody like Salah. I would like to have Ekitike. But again, like apart from that, I don't really know. What's the good fixture this week? Bournemouth? Everton? Who's playing Wolves this week? This is the information, the critical information I need to know. Oh yeah, I forgot that Liverpool play Wolves, Everton play Burnley, and those are kind of like the most targetable fixtures. Man City played Nottingham Forest. Yeah, that's basically it. So I just don't... The players that I have to remove at some point before game week 31 because they blank would be Ismail Assar and Rice. I think that's it, because I could bench Gabriel, I could bench Gehi and Holland, and I could bench David Raya. That would be my entire bench with no players on it for 31 if that blank continues to be a blank, which at the time of recording, again, we don't really have that information. So it's tough to make that call. So really, realistically, the only players I should be targeting to remove would be Ismail Assar and Rice. The unfortunate thing is that Ismail Assar has a good fixture in 30 and a not so bad one in 29. Rice, not so bad in 29. 30 is good as well. So I would like to keep those. Like, I think I might just roll. I think that's probably the best decision again. But not ideal because my team looks like crap and I'm getting absolutely crushed when I look at like the differentials, like Wilson and Semenyo, Van Dijk, Ekitike. I could see those players continuing to just like absolutely crush me until 31 when I can either like wild card or whatever. So that's the situation, man. I think just gun to my head at this moment, trying to get off the fence, I'm probably just going to roll because there's just really not an obvious decision. If Mbeumo has to come off the bench, that's fine. If Enzo has to come off the bench, also fine for like Holland and Rice, who might be injured. I think that's not even that bad, honestly. I'd rather just do nothing than switch Holland to Ekitike. I just feel like that's it's a downgrade for a player that I'm ultimately going to bring back on a wild card in like 2 weeks. So yeah, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense for my team, but maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's my thinking right now. And obviously my thinking has not led to green arrows in recent weeks. I thought I was in purgatory of 50K, but I think I'm out of the 50K purgatory and now I'm in the 100K purgatory. We'll see if I can turn that around, but based on how the season has gone so far, it's just, yeah, too much shit has gone on and too much random variance, too much nonsense and injuries. And similarly, the free hit team did not do well at all either. And I know that this was the Gameweek 28 official scout team that they came out with. They had Wilson. They only had Holland miss out. I had Wirtz and Holland in my team. I knew Wirtz was a risk. No one knew that Holland was going to be a risk. Obviously, a lot of people captained Holland. He was the most captained player for Gameweek 28. So yeah, I'm not even going to do the math. I know my team lost this one. It was just not a good week for me, not a good team for the stats, not a good team for the free hit, because generally the Bournemouth defense has looked really good by the underlying data. Sunderland have been terrible away, and obviously I got a triple clean sheet wiped. Malatia as well has had very good attacking returns or threat. Everton have been very terrible away from home and just offensively not very good, but it was not to be. And then, yeah, the Liverpool players I had the scout team also had. So just not a lot of differences. And I was just basically down a player. The only player that we had different was Dango, who did get a return, but they had Wilson. So I know my team did worse. So let's pull up who won the prize this week, because since my free hit team lost against the official team, I cash out $10 to the leading scorer for Gameweek28. So oh my God, there are some big scores. Again, people like doubling my score for the week is not a good look on me. Okay, so this is, we're on Gameweek28, right? Yeah, because this was my bad score, 58 points, when my safety score was 72 points. So on average, people did very, very well around my rank. And the person to do the best this week from the mini league, Forever Bowen Bubbles. That is a perfect name. That is an amazing FPL name. Kudos and hats off to you. Chris Angelakos, hit me up on Discord or Reddit, however you want to reach out. We'll touch base. And Jesus Christ, why are you scoring so many points? 99 points. You had Wilson, you bastard, and you captained Fernandez. You vice captained him because I'm not butthurt at all about that. And you got the Dewsbury Hall points off the bench. Yeah, this is a good team though. You had Ekatike and Dango, Timber, Gabrielle. Yeah, solid team. Hats off to you. Chris, hit me up and we'll arrange the payment. And yeah, you absolutely crushed it this week. 99 points while I got 58. I suck. So looking ahead to the free hit team that I'm supposed to come up with for Gameweek29, my confidence is low. Here's what the algorithm came up with, and I think this is basically what I'm going to go with. So the algorithm also excluded, that's the word I'm looking for, excluded Holland and Florian Wirtz because of injury concern. They may be back for this week, but yeah, I think originally the algorithm had Holland and Florian Wirtz in instead of Mohamed Salah. So once I adjusted the algorithm, excluding those two players that are likely going to be out, I assume, but could be back in, this is the team that the algorithm went with. And I think I'm just going to roll with this. I think that's probably fine for the free hit. I don't know if there's any players in particular I'm missing out that would be like obvious picks. Obviously, we've got the Everton boys playing Burnley. That's going to be weighted heavily in the algorithm because Burnley are the worst team in the league by the underlying data. Very similar to Wolves, who are also terrible. So we've got 3 there, 3 Everton. Tottenham are not doing so good. And then Gehi looks great. Bruno's always good by the underlying data. Same with Gabrielle. So I think from a conceptual standpoint, it looks probably the best on paper that I could come up with without Erling Haaland. So I'm just going to roll with this. This will be the free hit team that I put up against the official FPL scout team. But yeah, my confidence has been absolutely shaken the past few weeks. So I have very little confidence that even though this team looks great on paper and by the data, I'm just going to get absolutely rocked by the official FPL scout team, which will probably just have somebody absolutely stupid that's going to get a hat trick. So yeah, this is the team. I'll clip it up, throw it on Discord for transparency, and yeah, we'll see how it does. Good luck. Fingers crossed. Okay, and that's actually going to do it for the episode today. I do apologize. I'm going to hold my hands up. This was not my best effort. I do apologize. My mind was just elsewhere this past weekend, so I didn't really, as much as I wanted to watch the games, I just was doing family stuff, and I knew the FPL wasn't going to be good, so I was fully behind the couch, scared that my FPL team was going to suck, and it did. So yeah, hope to have a better week to get more back into FPL. I don't know if you all are feeling the kind of burnout that I am. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just this week and external factors and stuff like that. But yeah, rambling because I feel bad about how this episode came out, and hopefully it'll be better. I will be back after Gameweek29 wraps up, which I think should be done by like Thursday, Friday. So as soon as that wraps up, I'll be coming out with an episode. Hopefully it's a bit better than this one, probably a bit longer. I know this one's going to be very short because I just did not have a lot to talk about. We don't have a lot of info. My team did terrible. The stats are not going to suggest that I did otherwise. So yeah, we'll be back to wrap up Gameweek29 and look ahead to Gameweek 30. I think we got FA Cup weekend this weekend. So yeah, I need to look at the schedule. This episode has been so poorly planned that I don't even know what the next couple weeks are going to look like, but I'm pretty sure we've got midweek fixtures this week, FA Cup on the weekend. So then hopefully we'll know what the hell's going on with Game Week 31 and the blanks. So that could actually be a good kind of jumping back in point, at least for me. So I'll see you then. And I'm sorry I'm bad at this. Bye.